Episode 11 opens with Hui Ju, who discovers that a fire has broken out in the counseling hall and that Lien is trapped inside. She immediately rushes in to find him. Lien, who is indeed inside, spots her. He recalls a past moment when Hui Ju had promised him, "No matter what happens, I will always stay by your side." Hui Ju sees him as well and listens intently, relieved to hear the steady beat of his heart, a sign that he is still alive. She attempts to pull him out, but her efforts prove futile. She then screams for help. Meanwhile, Lien's mother, Yoo A In, is informed by a court lady that the counseling hall is on fire and that Lien was present at the time. Yoo A In asks anxiously if Lien is safe. In the next scene, we see Lien lying in a room. Hui Ju is by his side, watching over him. However, Lien is currently unconscious. Jin Suk is also present and tells Hui Ju not to worry, explaining that the physician has confirmed Lien is fine and currently stable, they simply need to wait for him to wake up. She then scolds Hui Ju, asking, "How could you jump into a fire like that? You could have been seriously hurt." Jin Suk adds that if Choi hadn't arrived at the scene at just the right moment, she doesn't know what might have happened. But Hui Ju replies that if their roles had been reversed, if she were the one in danger instead of Lien, he would have done exactly the same thing for her. Just then, Yoongyoo arrives and notices Hui Ju, whose hands were injured when she rushed into the burning building. He immediately takes her outside. Hui Ju tries to assure him that Lien is fine, but Yoongyoo is too concerned about her to listen. He shouts at Hui Ju, demanding to know, "How could you run into a fire like that? You shouldn't be here right now, you should be at a hospital." But Hui Ju retorts, "How could I possibly go to a hospital? I don't trust anyone right now, and I know that this was no accident. The fire there was set deliberately." Jang Yu shouts, "So what if it wasn't an accident? Is there anything you can do about it?" Hui Ju replies, "Can't you speak more softly? This is the palace." Jang Yu looks at Hui Ju and says, "How much longer must I watch you in danger? How much longer must I endure this?" We then see Ha Young, who is alone in a room. Just then, Choi approaches her and says, "I've been looking for you everywhere, and here you are, sitting right here." Ha Young looks terrified and says, "I should have been with Lien." But Choi asks, "Why are you talking like that? Even if you had been with Lien, what could you have done? Stop blaming yourself." Ha Young looks at his hand, noticing the injury there. She gently takes his hand and says, "If you hadn't gone in to save him, I don't know what would have happened." She thanks him for doing so. We then see a flashback of the scene where Choi was heading inside. Ha Young tries to stop him, but Choi says, "Don't worry, I'll bring them out safely." A short while later, we see that he had indeed brought both of them out. Choi tells Ha Young, "I was just doing my job." Ha Young replies, "I was worried about you." In the next scene, Ha Young approaches Hui Ju and asks, "Why did you summon me? Are you ill? Should we go to the hospital?" But Hui Ju replies, "I'm fine. By the way, Lien was supposed to go to the throne hall that day. Why did he go to the council hall instead?" Ha Young explains that Jang Yu had told him to do so. Later, Hui Ju goes to see Lien, who is fast asleep. Looking at him, she recalls various scenes from the past. Finally, she says softly, "You told me that the palace was a safe place for me. But where is the safe place for you?" In the next scene, we see Jong-woo gazing at the burnt-down counseling hall. The secretary suggests that they need to issue a statement regarding the incident, but Jong-woo refuses. The following scene reveals that news has broken regarding what transpired at the counseling hall, specifically, that Lien was present there. Next, we see Hui Ju, Ha Young, and Choi in the security room, reviewing CCTV footage. Hui Ju instructs them to examine the footage from the counseling hall covering the previous month. "Can you finish reviewing it within 3 days?" she asks. They confirm that they can. Hui Ju adds that they also need to check the security guards' shift logs. Choi points out that those records fall under Iron's jurisdiction, adding, "I'll speak to her myself." However, Hui Ju tells him to let it be, stating, "No, I'll speak to her personally." In the next scene, Hui Ju meets with Iron. Iron asks how Lien is doing, but Hui Ju offers no comment on the matter. Hui Ju then says, "I know that you were the one opposed to Lien, which makes you a potential suspect. If you wish to avoid being implicated, I need access to the shift records here. Grant me permission to view them." Ju declines to even take a sip of her tea, remarking, "I'm afraid that, given the current circumstances, I can't feel safe enough to accept even this, it might be poisoned." Ju subsequently leaves the room. Choi is waiting for her outside and asks, "What did Iron say?" Ju replies, "She granted permission." Later, Choi informs her that Jongwoo has gone to visit Lien and is currently inside his room. Ju immediately rushes over. She finds Jongwoo sitting by Lien's bedside. Jongwoo eventually steps out, and Ju walks him to the exit. Jongwoo remarks, "I told you I could find my way out on my own." Ju responds, "I shouted at you last time. Please forgive me for that. By the way, you don't go to church anymore. You aren't even wearing your necklace." Jongwoo replies, "I take it off when I'm at work." He then bids her goodbye and leaves. In the next scene, we see Ju and Young at a restaurant. Ju is trying to call his sister, but she doesn't pick up. Nearby, two people are discussing the events that took place at the palace. They mention that a fire broke out in the counseling hall and speculate that Lien may have died there. At least, that is what they had heard. Both Ju and Young are terrified by this news. Ju calls his sister again, but she still doesn't answer, as she is currently with Lien, watching over him. Jongwoo's secretary also speaks with him, explaining the public's reaction. They fear that Lien is in danger, and there are even rumors circulating that he has passed away. "What should we do?" the secretary asks. However, Jongwoo offers no reaction. In the following scene, Jongwoo arrives to meet with Ryan and states, "I don't believe Lien will regain consciousness anytime soon. Therefore, I think his regency should be transferred to you." Ryan flatly refuses, saying, "I do not want that. We should wait for Lien to wake up." However, Jongwoo attempts to force her to comply. Just then, they are informed that Lien has woken up. Lien walks in and greets them both. We then see Ju, who is working on shift records alongside Choi. She, too, is informed that Lien has regained consciousness. Ju rushes out into the garden, where Lien is waiting. He takes her hand and pulls her into a tight embrace. Ju looks up at him. Lien asks, "Why did you do that? Why did you walk into the fire?" Ju replies, "I knew that you were in there. So, how could I not go in after you?" Lien says, "Please forgive me." We then see Jongwoo, who is at his home. He recalls the conversation he had with Lien back at the palace. He asks Lien, "Did you get a checkup from the royal physician?" Lien replies, "I am perfectly fine. However, I've heard rumors circulating outside that I have passed away. What exactly is going on? We need to quash these rumors as soon as possible." Later, Jongwoo places a call to Sang-won, instructing him to take certain actions. Afterward, in a fit of rage, he hurls a glass across the room. That night, Lien and Ju are in each other's arms. Ju asks Lien, "Are you all right?" Lien replies, "Don't worry about me, I am perfectly fine." Ju then asks him, "Why did you go to meet Iron?" Lien explains, "I went to see Jongwoo because I knew that if I remained absent, my regency, my authority, would be transferred to someone else. And Jongwoo is certainly capable of doing that. So, I went there specifically to prove to him that I am still alive." Ju then asks him, "Just how much do you trust Jongwoo?" Lien asks in return, "Why are you asking that so suddenly?" "I trust him deeply. I am bound to the crown, and he is bound to the cabinet." Lien adds, "Besides, didn't you tell me yourself once that I possess enough common sense to know who I should and shouldn't place my trust in?" In the next scene, we see Lien arriving to meet Lan. Lan approaches Lien. He then begins to weep, saying, "I was afraid that you, too, just like my father, would leave me behind and go away." But Lien reassures him, "I am fine. I will always be right here with you." We then see Sang-won, who has come to the palace to visit his daughter. He tells her, "I've heard that Ju and Lien are about to resume their public duties here. We must stop them." Somehow, a gas explosion occurred in the counseling hall. Lien barely escaped with his life. Iron looks at her father and asks, "How did you know that a gas explosion had taken place there?" This information had been kept hidden from the public. However, he is unable to offer any explanation. Nevertheless, Iron realizes that her father must have been the one who orchestrated the fire. She then returns to her room. She removes all her jewelry. A lady approaches her, accompanied by Aram, and asks, "What are you doing?" Iron looks at Aram and says, "Forgive me. I won't be able to protect you. But I believe I can save your family." News soon breaks in the media that a man, who used to work as a security guard at the palace, was the one who set the fire, and he has now been arrested. In the very next scene, we see Hee Ju speaking with Choi, questioning how it is possible that a mere security guard could have started the fire there. It simply doesn't seem plausible. Hee Ju tells Choi, "I think I need to leave the palace." Meanwhile, we see Lien attending to his duties alongside Ha-young. Just then, he is informed that Iron has arrived outside and wishes to speak with him. Lien agrees to speak with Iron and sends Ha-young out of the room. Iron kneels down before him. Lien exclaims in shock, "What on earth are you doing?" Iron hands him some evidence and reveals, "The poisoning incident you suffered was orchestrated by my father. The evidence is right here before you. This girl is Aram, she used to work for me. She has testified that my father was behind that incident, and I believe he must have been the one who ordered the fire in the counseling hall as well. He wants to kill you." Lien responds, "Very well. What is it that you want? Should I forgive him? Is that why you are begging?" But Irene refuses, stating, "All I want is for him to receive the harshest possible punishment, and if I am a suspect, then punish me as well." Lien replies, "If that is truly what you desire, then you already know that the respect you have earned here, your entire reputation, will vanish in an instant." But Irene simply says, "I don't care." Lien asks, "Why are you doing this now? Have you begun to fear me?" Irene replies, "No, I do not fear you. I am doing all of this solely for the sake of the crown prince. I want to protect him." In the next scene, we see Jong Yu, who has arrived for a hunting expedition. He tells his secretary, "We shall go hunting again next season." Lien cannot join them, as he will require time to recover, and as for Irene, she does not participate in hunting. Just then, Hee Ju appears behind them and says, "Very well, let us go together." She immediately begins discussing the hunting protocols, asking, "Who makes the final decisions regarding this? Is it the crown prince?" He shakes his head and replies, "It is the nation." At this, Hee Ju levels her rifle at him and says, "I heard that you were the one who apprehended the person who set fire to the council hall." However, she subsequently lowers her weapon. In the following scene, we see Hee Ju arriving at the palace. Just then, Ha-jung calls her. She explains, Lien is at his private residence. He is intoxicated. Come here immediately. Hee Ju does exactly that. She enters the residence. Choi is speaking with Ha-jung, offering her some coffee. Hee Ju walks over and sits down beside Lien. Upon seeing her, Lien remarks, "My beloved wife has arrived." Lien then reveals, "Irene came to see me today, and she told me certain things regarding her father. But now, I simply do not know what to do." We look in on the night, finding Lien asleep. Hee Ju approaches him and sits down beside him. She gently caresses his face and remarks, "Your heart is so gentle. That is why my heart keeps breaking, time and again." We then see Lien observing someone, a subordinate, affixing a seal to a document and giving instructions to have it delivered to a specific recipient. In the next scene, we see Jong Yu arriving to meet with Lien, stating, "I heard you summoned me." Lien replies, "You have successfully solved the arson case, I commend you for that. You apprehended the culprit, but you have yet to solve the poisoning case." Jong Yu responds, "I am currently working on it." Lien then recalls a past scene. When Arum had come to visit him, she had revealed the truth about his father's actions. At that time, she had also warned him, "You must be wary of Jong Yu. He already knew the identity of the culprit behind the poisoning case, that is to say, he knew it was your father." However, Lien had dismissed this, saying, "That cannot be true. He would have no reason to withhold that information from me." Arum had simply asked, "Do you truly believe that?" Returning to the present, we see Jong Yu finally confessing, "It is Sang-won who is implicated in the poisoning case, he is the culprit." Lien demands, "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" Jong Yu replies, "He is Arum's father. Furthermore, he is the king's maternal grandfather." Lien shouts in outrage, "He tried to kill me." Jong Yu attempts to reason with him, "He has rendered invaluable service to the crown. That is why I was deliberating on the matter. But do not worry, Sang-won will never set foot here again." However, Lien retorts, He must come here, for it is here that he will face his punishment. Jong Yoo protests, that is impossible. If that were to happen, the very foundation of the crown would be shaken. But Lian stands firm, declaring, I do not care. In any case, once I ascend the throne, I will abolish the monarchy here forever. In the next scene, police officers approach Sangwon and place him under arrest. News regarding Sangwon breaks on television, which Irene happens to be watching. Just then, Lian arrives to see her. She tells her son, always stay strong. If you ever feel afraid, go to your uncle. Do you understand? He nods in affirmation. Lian goes to the prison to visit Sangwon. There, Sangwon protests, I didn't do anything. It's just a misunderstanding. But Lian retorts, keep your mouth shut. Sangwon begins to insist, I am Irene's father, and, furthermore, the king's maternal grandfather. Lian replies, the public will forever remember the despicable deeds you have committed, and it was Irene herself who exposed the crimes you perpetrated. Now, you can stay here forever and live with your regrets. We then see Jong-woo conducting a meeting, during which he reveals Lian's intentions, that he plans to abolish the monarchy. However, everyone present declares, we will not let that happen. He doesn't know anything. Later, Jong-woo steps outside, where he finds Hui Ju waiting for him. She approaches him and asks, Lian told me that you knew all along that Sangwon was a criminal. Why didn't you say anything? Jong-woo counters, did you know beforehand that Lian intended to abolish the monarchy? Hui Ju responds, well, perhaps he might be right. Jong-woo replies, as I've said before, it is up to the nation to make that decision. The episode concludes with everyone waiting for Lian, as he is about to ascend the throne. Shortly thereafter, the coronation takes place, bringing the episode to a close. Let's jump to the final episode of Perfect Crown, where Lian enters the throne hall. He addresses the assembly and proposes that they discuss the abolition of the monarchy. Inside the room, Hui Ju and Choi are waiting. Choi repeatedly voices his apprehension, wondering what exactly is unfolding behind those doors. Hui Ju, however, remains silent. She then recalls a scene from earlier, a conversation she had with Lian just before he entered the throne hall. First, Hui Ju had briefed him on who was present, various relatives, as well as members of the cabinet. Lian simply replied, yes, I know. Hui Ju then asked him, all right, what is the very first thing you intend to do once you get in there? Lian responded, I want to abolish the crown forever. And I believe you will understand me. Hui Ju affirmed, yes, I will always stand by you. Many may view this as treason, but in truth, it is a revolution. We return to the throne hall, where everyone present stands in opposition to Lian. Back inside the waiting room, Hui Ju speaks with Choi, who remarks, I don't think anyone here is going to side with Lian. Hui Ju replies, in that case, the public is the only force left that might stand with him. Later, Youngwoo steps outside. The media, waiting right there, immediately confronts him, asking, we've heard rumors that the crown is about to be abolished. Is it true? Youngwoo calmly assures them, do not worry, everything will be fine. Finally, we see Ah Rin, who has come to the prison to visit her father. Sangwon flies into a rage upon seeing her, shouting, how dare you show your face here? He begins to berate her, demanding, how could you tear a father and son apart like this? How could you do such a thing? But now, Iron reveals that her son already knew about the misdeeds she had committed, he had overheard everything that day. This realization has served as a wake-up call for her. Previously, she had believed that everything being done was for her sake, but she was mistaken. She turns to leave, but just then, Sangwon reveals that it was Jang Yu who orchestrated everything. He had known in advance that an explosion was going to occur in the counseling hall. Iron steps outside, where Jang Yu is already waiting for her. She is terrified upon seeing him. Iron receives an incoming call but chooses not to answer it. Jang Yu suggests, come, let me take you to the palace. Elsewhere, we see Iron in a car with Jang Yu. Jang Yu tells her, there will be one final discussion regarding the abolition of the monarchy, and I want you to take a stand against Lian. Iron asks, and what will happen if I refuse? Jang Yu responds, I know exactly what you did to the previous king, your late husband. If I were to reveal to everyone how you burned the royal decree and caused the fire, if that were to happen, the public would forever view your son as a criminal. Is that what you want? Iron then asks, I heard that you tried to kill Lien. Is that true? Jang Yoo answers with a simple, yes, adding, and I will continue to try. Hae-young speaks with Lien, informing him that this time, Jang Yoo has frozen the palace budget. Later, she discusses this matter with Hee-ju. Hee-ju says, don't worry, my name is Hee-ju. I can lend you the money. However, Lien declines the offer. But Hee-ju refuses to take no for an answer. Meanwhile, Youngwoo's secretary is seen briefing him on the situation, informing him that the castle group has stepped in to assist Lien this time. Youngwoo replies, very well. We need to investigate the castle group. Da-young calls Hee-ju to inform her of the developments and what is about to unfold. In the next scene, Hee-ju arrives to visit her father, accompanied by her brother. Da-young explains that they are about to receive official summons and that a formal investigation into the matter will commence shortly. Hee-ju remarks, I know that this is being orchestrated against me, and I think I even know who is behind it. Tae-ju tells his father, I will go to the prosecutor's office to give my statement, I will also handle speaking to the media. His father warns him, if you do that, your blood pressure will skyrocket. Han-guk finally consents, saying, all right, you go ahead. Hee-ju also starts to leave, but her father stops her and instructs Tae-ju, escort your sister back to the mansion. Tae-ju does exactly that. They soon arrive at the mansion, where Hee-ju tells him, my legal team is excellent. If you need any assistance at all, just let me know. He looks at his sister and asks, are you worried? She denies it. However, she eventually adds, I used to be very hard on you in the past, but from now on, I'll try to be a little less tough. She then bids him farewell. Hearing this makes Tae-ju incredibly happy. He wants to talk to her a little longer, but Hee-ju quickly hurries inside the mansion. Hee-ju goes to find Lien, who has been waiting for her. She explains, I went to visit my father. Lien replies, you should have told me, I would have gone with you. Hee-ju then informs him, the prosecutors are about to launch an investigation into them very soon. But don't worry, everything will be fine. Today, I felt incredibly proud of my brother. He is going to go speak to the media himself and issue a statement. He carries himself with such confidence, chest held high, and seeing that made me feel confident as well. I think you should do something similar. We then see Iram, who has just put her son to sleep. She sits watching over him. She then recalls a memory, a conversation she had with Jang Yoo while they were in a car together. Iram whispers to her son, protecting you is such a difficult task. Meanwhile, Hae-young speaks to Lien, telling him, to abolish the monarchy, you're going to need Iram's support. I think you should go talk to her. But Lien replies, let it be. Let her rest. Her battle is finally over. We then see Iram outside with her son, the two are simply hanging out together. Lan asks his mother, what would happen to a nation if it were to exist without a monarchy? Iram asks, what's the matter? Are you scared? Lan replies, no, but what about you? Are you scared? Nearby, Hee-ju and Choi are watching them. Choi remarks that Iram's father had already done so much, and now, most people no longer look favorably upon Iram. Later that evening, Hee-ju approaches Iram and says, I need your help, because right now, the royal family is actually willing to listen to what you have to say. That night, Iram places a call to Jang Yoo and says, all right, I'll do exactly as you suggested. Hearing this, Jang Yoo is delighted and tells her, you've made the right decision. In the following scene, we witness yet another conversation regarding the abolition of the monarchy, a discussion that continues for a considerable length of time. Just then, Hee-ju arrives and confronts Youngwoo, asking why he tried to kill her husband. Youngwoo claims he has no idea what she is talking about. However, we then see that Hee-ju possesses a recording, which she proceeds to play. The scene reveals that when Irene was leaving the police station, she ran into Youngwoo. Irene had activated her voice recorder at that moment, and everything discussed between the two while they were inside the car was captured. Now, everyone listens to the conversation. It turns out that when Hee-ju had visited Irene to ask for help, Irene had turned on the recorder and remarked, I don't believe Lien would be capable of doing such things alongside Youngwoo. You are the only one who can stop Youngwoo. Meanwhile, members of the cabinet express their desire to assist Youngwoo. However, Lien shouts at them, declaring, he tried to kill me. If anyone sides with him, be warned, they, too, will be treated as accomplices. Later, Ju steps outside and tells them to go and assist Lien. We then see Lien speaking privately with Young-woo, asking, "Did you really try to kill me?" Young-woo eventually confesses, admitting, "Yes, I did." Lien asks, "Why?" Young-woo replies, "Because I told you to let Ju go, but you wouldn't allow it." Lien retorts, "How could I let her go when she was never yours to begin with?" At that very moment, Choi arrives with the police, and Young-woo is placed under arrest. In the next scene, we see Lien drafting a decree. It is revealed that the fate of the monarchy, whether it is to be abolished or preserved, will be left entirely to the public. A national referendum is to be held. We then see Ju and Lien out together for a casual outing, where Lien tells Ju, "Once all of this is over, I want people to address me by my name, especially you." Ju remarks that she already knows what his name is. We then see Choi and Hae-young at a bus stop. Hae-young tells Choi that once the monarchy is abolished, she thinks he will face a difficult time, as these people have been his family since childhood. However, Choi assures her that it is fine, adding that they will always be together, Lien, Ju, and her as well. Just then, Hae-young looks at his face and points out that he has something on it. She leans in close and kisses him. Afterward, she laughs and asks, "Honestly, don't you think we're moving a bit too fast?" He shakes his head in disagreement and then pulls her in for a tight kiss of his own. Their bus arrives, and the other passengers are astonished to see them, though they do not board immediately. They continue kissing for quite a while. Later, Hae-young suggests that when spring arrives, they should go see the cherry blossoms. He readily agrees to the idea. In the next scene, the results of the public survey are revealed, showing that the people no longer desire a monarchy. Consequently, the monarchy is abolished forever. Lien steps outside to where Ju is waiting. She no longer addresses him as king, but instead calls him by his given name. Lien runs over to her and pulls her into a tight embrace. The next scene fast forwards 3 years later, showing Ju returning to her workplace, Castle Beauty. Everyone welcomes her back warmly. She strikes a pose and smiles for the media. Once inside, she looks at her nameplate and says, "I missed you." However, upon seeing a massive stack of files, she exclaims, "What on earth is all this?" Hae-young explains that these are pending tasks and that she simply has to get them done. Ju then looks at the face of the company's brand, which now features Tae-ju. Seeing this, she becomes furious and declares that with him as the face of the brand, no one will want to buy their products. Just then, Tae-ju arrives and asks his sister, "Could you do me a favor?" Hae-ju asks, "What is it this time?" Tae-ju explains, "I need you to take over managing the castle card business. I can't handle it anymore." Hae-ju asks, "What happened? If I do that, what will you do? Did father hand the electronics division over to you? Are you going to be working there?" But Tae-ju shakes his head and replies, "How could I do that? Father hasn't retired yet." He pauses, then asks, "Should I just tell you?" Finally, he reveals, Diang is pregnant. Hae-ju asks, "So what?" Tae-ju replies, "I have to take care of Diang." Hae-ju glares at him furiously and lunges at him as if to strike him, but Tae-ju manages to flee the scene. Hae-ju is reacting this way because she realizes that now, she will be the one stuck doing all the work. Meanwhile, we see Lien and Choi, who are at home preparing a meal. Choi remarks to Lien, "Your wife works outside, yet here you are, sitting around at home doing nothing. You shouldn't be like that, girls don't like guys who just lays around." But Lien protests, "What do you mean, doing nothing? I'm just resting." Choi retorts, "It amounts to the same thing." Just then, Hae-ju calls Lien. She informs him, "I'll be coming home late today because I have a massive amount of work to get through here." She adds that Hae-jung will also be staying late with her. Hae-jung looks visibly upset at this news. On the other hand, Choi is also annoyed, as this means he and Lien won't be able to hang out together after all. Later, the two of them head to a restaurant where they share some sandwiches. We learn that Choi's third wedding anniversary is approaching, and he suggests to Lien, "I think you should propose to Hae-ju." Hearing this makes Lien smile happily. Lien replies, "I already proposed to her a long time ago." But Choi says, "You know that all of that was fake." Just then, Jinsuk calls Choi and says, "Lien is with you, isn't he?" Both of you come over here, I need to talk to you about something. We then see Hee-ju. Hanguk comes to meet her. He explains, your brother can't come here right now. You'll have to handle his work. He adds, I never wanted you to lose. All I wanted was for you to stop fighting against everyone. But now you look like you're doing well. You can do whatever you want now. Hearing this, Hee-ju feels happy. In the next scene, we see Lien and Choi arriving at Jinsuk's place. Jinsuk takes Lien by the hand and seats him on a bed. She asks, is it comfortable? I had it made just for you. Lien replies, it's fine, but why did you do all this? Jinsuk says, it's been 3 years, and we still don't have an heir. So, I want you to start preparing for that now, and this bed is specifically for that purpose. Upon hearing this, Choi starts laughing and says, yes, you're absolutely right. However, Lien says, we can't do that right now, because my wife is very busy. In the evening, Hee-ju returns home. She finds Lien standing there. Seeing him, she is surprised and asks, why are you just standing there? You should be asleep. But Lien replies, my wife hasn't come home yet, so how could I possibly sleep? Hee-ju says, I'm sorry. But now there's even more pressure on me, because Taeju won't be working there anymore. Daein is pregnant, so he'll be taking care of her. Still, I'm incredibly happy because I've finally obtained the castle card. Afterward, she kisses him and says, I'm going to go take a shower. Later that night, as they lay in bed together, Lien speaks to Hee-ju and says, I really should get you a ring. However, at this moment, Hee-ju is half asleep and asks him, why are you bothering with all this? Just let it be. In the next scene, we see Lien with Iron. The two of them are at a shop, where Iron buys a violin for her son. However, Lien steps in to pay for it, telling her, please tell my nephew that this is a gift from me. We learn that Iron hopes her son will become a musician, and he has now started attending an academy. Later that evening, we see Lien and Choi together. Lien is holding a bouquet of flowers and begins to speak about a marriage proposal and a ring. Just then, however, Choi notices that Hee-ju is standing right behind them. He signals this to Lien. Lien turns around, looks behind him, and blushes with embarrassment. Later, when they are alone, Hee-ju confronts him, asking, what is all this? Is this the reason you were talking about a ring the other night? But Lien denies it. Hee-ju persists, asking, why are you doing all this? We've already done all of this before. It's just a waste of time. But Lien replies, I know that all of that was fake. Hee-ju, however, refutes this, saying, no, back then, I did have feelings for you. Lien becomes upset and points out, but before all of that happened, we even shared a kiss. And back then, I didn't feel anything at all. Hee-ju picks up a flower petal, blows on it gently, and asks him, alright then, what about you? When did you start liking me? Lien finally confesses, I've liked you from the very beginning. The moment we met at the archery grounds, that's when I started falling for you. I asked for your name, and I fell in love with you right then and there. I tried to meet you again after that, but I wasn't able to. However, we finally crossed paths again at the palace, the first time you attended an event there. I didn't want to run away at that moment. Hee-ju asks, okay, so what did you do? Lien replies, I simply came to you. I wanted to be with you. Later, he approaches Hee-ju and kisses her. In the next scene, we see Lien at an exhibition, the very place where he hadn't wanted to run away earlier. Hee-ju arrives shortly after. He notices a king's attire on display, which perhaps belonged to him. Afterward, he steps outside. The drama concludes with a scene at a public baseball game. Hee-ju and Lien are present, joined by Choi and Hye-young. The camera focuses on them as the crowd chants for them to kiss. Lien and Hee-ju share a kiss, for now they are no longer bound by any societal constraints. With this, the drama comes to an end. So guys, let me know in the comments how you liked this drama. We'll meet again in a new drama next time. Until then, bye.